Hello, Neil Peart here with Professor John Good, and he's going to explain to us a very complicated subject. I'm just going to be the cheap device for exposition that he can... I'm the student, as I always like to say here at Drum Workshop. I'm the student in residence, always glad to learn from all the great drummers that come through and from John about the nuances of drum construction and everything that that covers, and as we've applied it between the two of us in instruments, and as John is going to make available to all drummers, a truly individual choice in each shell and its note and response that you can combine together as you wish, really, in the creation of your own custom DW drum set. Over to Professor Good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Neil, essentially, we've been doing this for a number of years, you and I. And I think it started with your R30 kit.
Yeah, you started to get some glimmers of inspiration back
Yes,
then.
I did, because I remember you landed your kit, the red kit, in my showroom, and you said, look at it, live with it for a couple weeks, and look at the way I've got it tuned. And because before that, I was just giving you stock, pretty much shells that I was making,
right,
and you were tuning them in ranges that, maybe they wanted to go, maybe they were...
Or that pleased me, yeah. There are various needs that you have. And from my upper to lower toms is a perfect example of that chromatic spread, that the upper ones I actually like to be very bright and tonal and tune them really tight, and then a lot of times use percussive dynamics so that when I really hit them full out rim shot across the head, that head stretches and detunes slightly. So that becomes a part of the throaty quality that I want the high toms to have. But as I move down into the lower ones, tonality is everything. I've done the demonstration before with my DW drums of tapping that floor tom with a finger and boom, it just produces a pure resonant note with incredible sustain. And I love that in the lower toms for them to have that almost tympanic note recognition and quality. So that became a part of the shell design. It started with the lower toms, I think, and with the bass drum, John applying his ideas in creating tonality by combining the wood grains in different directions.
Well, having said that, in the earlier days of drum shell construction and making, I always thought it was the thicker the shell, the higher the pitch, thinner the shell, lower the pitch, and that's it.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. Well, like cymbals. If you think about cymbals, thicker cymbals have a higher pitch, thinner ones have a darker washes.
Okay.
So today we're going to mess with that theory entirely.
I mean, investigate that science.
And the way we want to start doing is I brought 3 pieces of veneer here, and I've drawn some lines on it so you can actually see
They didn't grow that way.
They didn't grow this way. It would be pretty cool to find a tree that does
We're
that.
looking.
But so I've drawn an arrow on the direction of the grain. And to understand really what we're talking about here, you really need to understand veneer first. And so I will use you as my student.
Please.
Okay. Here we have a piece of 1/36 of an inch veneer. And this is very, very thin, obviously, but the grain is running this direction. If you hold your hand out, you'll see that holds itself very well. I mean, it's very shape, very strong.
Tensile strength?
Yeah, tensile strength. And the grain is running this direction. Now, every piece of wood has a musical note value. And
listen.
Here, you'll be able to hear this. Tell me if you can hear this.
Yes.
There's a note in there.
Absolutely.
Okay, now, see the way I'm tapping this? I'm going to hold it. I want you to tap it for me.
Listen. Remarkable.
So the pitch went up, right?
Remarkable.
And the pitch went up with tension. Now feel this tension here. I mean, it's a fair amount of tension for thin.
It wants to straighten up.
It absolutely does. So that's what we're going to call horizontal grain, okay? Horizontal grain. Then we have another piece here that is a similar size. If you hold your hand out, and you notice the grain is going the opposite direction. It's going short grain. Hold your hand out. And you'll see how it just falls like that.
A piece of wallpaper.
Basically, yes. And it has a note value as well,
Sure
right?
It does, yep.
But I wouldn't be able to change that because I can't put any tension on this. So we're going to call that vertical grain, okay? And then I have this wacky, wild, strange, diagonal cut piece of grain here. And if you hold your hand out, you'll notice that it twists like this.
It wants to spiral.
Now, if you tap the side while I try to straighten it out, look what happens. Tap the side.
It seems to me even an exaggerated raising of the pitch.
It's raising the pitch, but it's getting its tension from a whole different place. So we're going to call that diagonal grain, right? What does all this mean?
How can we use it?
How can we use it?
When we hit things with a stick.
I have 5 drum shells here. And the first shell is the shells that I love that I've made for many, many years. This is a horizontal grain on the outside, horizontal on the inside, cross-laminated in between. It's a 7-ply shell with 3-ply reinforcing hoops.
So cross-laminated meaning?
That one goes this way, the one behind it goes that way, and then this way.
That's
and
interesting.
you have to have that for strength or else they just fold up. Okay, so that's a 7 and 3, 3-ply hoop, right? Then I have my next shell right here is the same shell, 7-ply shell, cross-laminated, but I've taken the hoops away. So the pitch from that shell to this one will go up or down. It should go down because we've taken mass away.
And tension affected?
Well, a little bit because of the tension of the hoop as well. Yeah, very good. Then I have what we call a thicker 8-ply shell right here. This is an 8-ply. So now theoretically, with going back to symbols and mass versus, less mass, it should go up because there's more mass here. It's 8-ply. But this one is vertical on the inside, of course, cross-laminated. And then we have...
Will we hear these differences when you
just
play that shell? Okay, great.
Then we have what we call the X shell. This is the diagonal grain this way, then behind it is that way, and so on for 8 plies, and that creates an X.
So every one is that spiral tension piece that we looked at earlier.
Then we have the newest of them all, until next week, I'm sure.
Ta-da.
This is an X shell as well, but I've inserted 2 vertical plies in here. And let's see what that does, because vertical is going to be the lowest, horizontal is the highest, and that falls in somewhere in between.
Right.
Okay, so now.
So in essence, the vertical doesn't have any tension, even as it's
has less tension. It has less tension.
Okay.
That particular 1 ply.
By the time you bend those around, then they pick up some tension.
Exactly.
Okay, because they want again to straighten out.
Correct.
Right.
So here is that first shell, a 7-ply shell, 3-ply hoop. Listen to it. Okay.
It's a beautiful sound.
It is beautiful.
No one can hit a shell like that, by the way. I had tried. That's why I wouldn't even try to do this demonstration. But John does this with all these shells and just has the perfect stroke.
And here's the one without the hoops. We predicted it would go down.
Oh, yeah. Again, beautiful sound.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Then we have the thicker 8-ply shell.
Oh. What
surprisingly goes down more. And
amount.
very nice and round.
Yeah.
And then we have the X shell.
Oh,
getting down there.
Wow. And I've remarked upon this before. These are all exactly the same size of
That's
shells.
right.
And when John first demonstrated this to me, we were standing in the factory in John's little testing area, and he showed me 2 shells like this, and I could not believe. I had no knowledge of the nuances of shell construction, but I couldn't believe there was a whole tone difference between 2 otherwise identical pieces of wood.
And so, in this one being the last one, listen to how...
It's a bass drum.
It's a bass drum. So we're going from here all the way.
Yeah, chase the range, the highest to the lowest.
Check the range here. Highest, all the way to the lowest. All in the same size. Isn't that
phenomenal
amazing?
Amount of difference? It's like you could build a drum set out of 4 identically sized shells.
If you could get drum heads to really perform in all those ranges, and one day I think we will.
Yeah.
What does all this mean, and how do we utilize that?